All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Craig Schmidt, Senior Service Hydrologist for the Weather Service Twin Cities office. For anyone who doesn't know me, hopefully you're seeing my title slide here. I think that should be up on your screen. Um, as far as I'm going to go through a couple of slides and show a little bit of the background of what we're doing with the new website, and then bring up the site itself and go through a little bit of a demo. Feel free to type some questions in as you think of them in the questions section of the webinar, and I can answer those at the end. I'll also unmute people. I think everybody's unmuted now, actually. I'll unmute you and we can have a discussion on things also after the demo. So probably maybe not be doing questions in the middle of the demo, but we'll take care of those at the end. So once again, appreciate you coming by, and let's get started. Our AHAP site, the website where you go to see all of our river observations and National Weather Service river forecasts, it's been in use since the mid-90s, and it looks like it. And it's time to change that. It is running out of it's gone way past its intended longevity. And our new site is going to be called the National Water Prediction Service. It is available right now, and you can start looking at it. AHAPS itself will be turned off at the end of this month, scheduled to be on the 28th, the day after Memorial Day. And at that point, everything will be redirected to the new site. So you probably want to start changing bookmarks and start looking at the new site, but things will be redirected for you also for about a year's time. So let's take a look at some of the highlights. First, we're going to cover changes with the mapping system. The main first one you'll notice is observations and forecast flood status are in the same icon now on the map. We don't have separate tabs across the top, one map for observations, one map for forecasts. Everything is on the same map, and you will use the legend on the right side to kind of add and subtract what you're looking at. So a single icon on each gauge location will show you both the observation and a forecast if there is one in effect, and I'll show that here in just a moment. We have robust search and filter capabilities on the new system, a very functional legend, as I mentioned, to create different displays for your situational awareness. And you'll have to excuse me, I've got a cold here as I'm talking, so my apologies. There is a new hazard map, so you can see all National Weather Service flooding hazards, flood warnings, watches, advisories, that sort of thing, but also all weather hazards are available on the new map. So it's really a good situational awareness map for any type of weather situation with the Weather Service. So we'll look at that as well. The precipitation map is improved. There is some snow information out there each morning now that you can take a look at in the springtime when we're looking at our snowfall and snow water equivalent. And on the long range outlook map, you can see a quick view on mouse over, which we didn't have before. So let's take a look at some of that on our site. This is, of course, the old AHAP site, what it looked like, and it is being replaced by something that looks a lot more like this. So in this case, I've got the state of Minnesota highlighted, and what you'll see on the right side is a listing of all the different types of gauges and what status they're all in. And you can change what you can select each one of these to show them or not show them. You can also select across the top. If you hit the observation button, it'll turn them all on or all off. Same for the forecast. Here's an example in the state of Wisconsin for those of you coming in from Wisconsin. This is, of course, a look at the observation screen on AHAPS and what it used to look like. This is what that map now looks like on NWPS. And you can bookmark your own way of looking at different boundaries. In this case, I've got our WFO boundary on here. You can have state boundaries, county boundaries, and change all the colors and opaqueness and all that sort of thing. And then create a bookmark showing all the different types of observations and forecasts you want, what boundaries you want, and that sort of thing. And then each time you open up the site, it will be set up exactly how you like it. So here's an example I took earlier this year in the Chicago area, showing on AHAPS, you could just see the observations on one map. You'd have to look at a different map to see what the forecast is. Looking at it now in that area, you can see both at the same time, and you can get an idea of what the observation was, or what status the observation's in, as well as the status of the forecast. So looking where my cursor is at this orange one, the green circle means that the observation is below flood stage, but the orange square indicates that the forecast is for minor flood stage coming up. So just by looking at the map, you get an idea of what current and forecast stages are, and then when you click on the button, you will get the hydrograph and all of the details. We'll show that here in just a moment. Another example of the hazards I was talking about here was a flood warning that was in effect. If you clicked on that anywhere in that green section, you get an actual display of the flood warning that we have issued and is in effect for that area. Includes the times, the various times that it's effective and when it expires, and all of the details. And then, as I mentioned, we also have this for all hazards, including weather hazards. This was in the middle of the winter in Missouri. I picked up an ice storm warning and showed the example there. So it's a good all hazards map display. On precipitation, we have added quite a few more ranges of precipitation that you can take a look at. You can look at the last 24 hours, the last couple of days, the last week, the last 90 days, all the way up to a water year. You can also compare, as we did on AHAPS, to normal, percent of normal, and departure from normal. Then something new is by clicking on this display estimated precip on hover, we can see the actual numbers for each of the grid boxes underneath the cursor. Another new feature I mentioned was the national snow analysis from our friends down the hall at No Risk. Each morning at 12Z, we'll get a single image of the snow depth and snow water equivalent around the country. And just one example here. It is not, unfortunately, a clickable map at this point, but that hopefully we'll be able to develop that part in the future. But at least we can get a snapshot as we're going into the spring flood season of what the snow conditions are. Taking a look at the long-range outlook, if you click on that portion of the legend, this brings up the long-range outlook icons, and then if you hover over one of the icons, it will display the 90-day outlook graphic that we've been used to seeing. Here's an example of that from this winter. And then next we'll take a look at hydrographs and how those are different. The main difference you may notice will be it is a longer, wider hydrograph. It goes across the entire screen now, as opposed to just being a little box. And it is a dynamically updating hydrograph. So that means once the information gets into the database, it will be displayed on the hydrograph. So the old system on AHAPS, we had to create every hydrograph for every gauge in the country every 15 minutes and then store those hydrographs. And then when you clicked on the map to look at one, it just brought up the stored hydrograph. So there's kind of some built-in delays, and some of the data could be fairly old by the time you actually got to see it. The new system will create the hydrograph when you click on the site. So whatever the most recent data in the database is, you will see it at that point. And so it's a much more responsive. You'll get the data a lot quicker that way. Currently, the auto updating feature is not working, but they expect to have that done within the next couple of weeks. Getting ready to test that right now. They had put it in the system, but it was causing a lot of problems. They had to pull it back out. So at least by the next, at least through the end of this month anyway, you will have to re-click on the hydrograph or re-click on the map to get the data to update. But that should be going away pretty quickly. When you're looking at the map, you get one click to get a quick view of the hydrograph, and then a second click to bring up the full details and the full hydrograph page. We do not have a mouse over at this point. Again, that is because they are dynamically updating and we're not storing the hydrograph for that use. Another big difference is we are storing 30 days worth of observations instead of up to 7 is all we could do in AHAPS. There's a little slider bar at the bottom of the hydrograph so that you can adjust it and take a look going back 30 days. The probabilistic graphics are now on the main hydrograph page instead of in a separate tab. So the 30-day, 90-day outlooks, as well as the HEF's 10-day experimental probabilistic guidance. Those are now on the main hydrograph page, and we'll take a look at that. And then we now have some experimental national water model guidance. The national water model is being run from the National Water Center in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and it is being run for every stream reach in the country. It is a long way to go to be useful for operations. So at this point, all I'm saying is to take a look at it for testing and evaluation, but it is not something that I would be using in operations at this point. But it is something to start looking at and starting getting used to. They have not done much calibration up here in the northern part of the country. They have done a lot of the work on it so far in the south and the east. Excuse me a second here. So here's an example of the AHAPS hydrograph that we're used to. That same hydrograph on NWPS will look like this. I'm going to, I think, show a video here in just a second. Yeah, there's a little slider bar demo. So there's a quick video to show some of the features on the hydrograph. When you bring your cursor over the hydrograph, it gives you an immediate readout of the data that you're looking at, so you can see the observation and the time and date. And then right below the hydrograph, there is this slider bar I was talking about. I think it defaults to about 7 days worth of data, but you can pull that back and look at the last 30 days. It's kind of a really nice feature. It gives us a lot more to look at so that you can still go back and see what the peak was when you're in, say, a flood recovery. So the National Water Model is available on this second tab. So when you bring up a hydrograph, it'll be on the official tab. If you look at the Water Model tab up here, you get a blue background, you get an alert that says that it is not official, not an official forecast, but it's just guidance, and we'll just be kind of evaluating it probably for a couple of years at this point. So the last slide, then I'll send these out to everybody when we're done, and it's got some resources that you can take a look at. Click those links. If anybody wants to right now, you can take a look at the QR code if you want to grab that. I'll leave that up for a second. And that will take you to the resource page from the National Water Center. Again, the website address is water.noaa.gov, and feel free to send questions to me at any time once you start taking a look at it. So at this point, I'm going to switch over and bring up the website. This is water.noaa.gov. I'm using a test server right now because it's got a couple fixes in there that will be coming to the main site next week. So we will start out. I'm going to show just kind of the different features of the legend over on the right side. I've got a few different backgrounds. We can bring up a satellite map background. We can also, for those who like dark mode, we have a dark mode. I do find that pretty handy to use myself quite often. I like that one. I'll do this demo though in the default topographic mode. And then, as I mentioned, there is the legend. We have defaults to showing, of course, observations and forecasts. If you click on the long-range forecast outlook, then you can see what those 90-day graphs look like, as I mentioned in the briefing. So you just get a mouse over on that. And then if you want to look at the actual full-size graphics, you can click on the site and go to the main hydrograph page, and I'll show that when we get to that a little bit later. So as I mentioned, here are all of the different types of observations between major flood, moderate, minor, or flood stage, or action stage. We have, of course, anything that's not flooding is in green. And then we have a number of other ones, such as points that do not have a flood category defined, ones that do not have any forecast, ones that are at low water threshold, or ones that have either out of service or don't have current data. As I mentioned, if you click on the column, they can all be turned off or all be turned on in one click. Same thing for the forecasts. We can turn all the forecasts on or off. So I will do that, and then I click off of these most of the time. I like the default reads just the green, basically forecasts that are in effect at this time. Excuse me. So at this point, I'm going to do a little switch and go up to our search bar up in the upper left. You can search for any river gauge. You can search for an area such as a state, a National Weather Service forecast office, or river forecast center. You can look for a river, or you can look for if you know there's a gauge in a certain town, but you can't remember the river name, you can just put in the town and it comes up. Let's just use mine. If I put Delano up there, I should be able to see South Fork Crow River at Delano. So that would be a way to bring up that gauge. And there it is. So I'm going to go back out a little bit here and just show some of the other search features, which I find handy. Let's take a look at the state of Minnesota. So if I start typing Minnesota, brings that up, and I click on it, it highlights the state. And then I wanted to highlight this next section right here, which is limit by boundary. If you click on limit by boundary, it removes everything outside of whatever that boundary is that you've chosen. Again, you can do this for a state, a county, or a river forecast center, and we should be adding some other ones here in the future. But for situational awareness purposes, what is really nice about that is that then the information that is in the table is what is shown here in the boundary you've chosen. So in this case, the state of Minnesota, and you can get an idea real quickly of how many sites you've got at the different levels. So in this case, in Minnesota right now, we have 2 gauges observed at minor flood stage, 10 at action stage or more, and 109 site forecast points that do not have that are not flooding or not at action stage. And then the same thing for the forecast. We have none forecasts for moderate or major, 2 for minor, and 11 at action stage. So I think it can be really handy, a good way to make your situational awareness display or situational awareness map. I did want to show, let's take another look at the icons for, say, a different observation versus forecast. We'll take a look at the Red River at Fargo. You can see it's a green circle, yellow square, meaning our current levels are below action stage, but it is forecast to go to action stage. And then if you click on the site itself, brings up the quick hydrograph, and you can get an idea and see exactly the information there. And we'll go over all of the hydrograph stuff here again in just a few minutes. So I'm going to go back out to, I'm going to turn off the limit by boundary and go back out here, and I'm going to turn off the search feature. So we do have you can take a look at sites that have the partner flood inundation map gauges. In our case, we only have one in our area, and that is for the city of St. Paul. So that's the only one that would show up on that map, but we'll just discuss that again here in a little bit. I just want to go down the other features in the in the legend. The next one is where you turn it on and off the hazards. In this case, the flood warnings should be showing up, and I don't see them right now. That's interesting. Yeah, the joys of a live demo. There we go. So our flood warnings are defaulted to on, and if I click on somewhere on that flood warning, there is the actual flood warning that shows up, as we talked about in the on the slides. If we want to enable all weather and water hazards, we click on that button there, and then we would get a depiction of all hazards. I'm going to zoom out a little more, and we can see what else might be going on. It's a fairly quiet day today. Well, we have some stuff going on down here in Texas, so we've got some different products there. Flash flood warning in the Fort Worth area. We've got some other flood products as well, a large scale flood watch. Back closer to home, I believe there's still some fog up in the north, so there's a little dense fog advisory from Duluth right now. So again, if you want to just use this as a hazard map, you can turn off the river points and just take a look at look at the hazards. So I will pull those off for now, and we'll move on to the next, which is the precipitation estimate. I have not looking at that yet this morning. Should be defaulting to a 24-hour amount, and I'm on a test server, so I'm not sure that it has brought that in yet today. I'll hold on for a little bit here to see if it loads, but I may have not done that correct, or that may not be working this morning. So the joys of live demos here. So my apologies there. What I wanted to show is to see if I can bring in a previous day maybe. And maybe they just admit this server may not have the precip on it. So I can try something real quick. Oh, geez. Let's try the one that everybody is looking at right now and just see if that has the precip on it. There we go. So I'm going to turn off some of the forecast gauges right now so we can see the precipitation. This is what fell in the last 24 hours. And as we zoom in, the resolution gets a little bit better. And then I will just quickly show the display on hover, and you can see the information right below. So, and this is stage 4 precipitation data. So it is radar data as well as it's been quality controlled by the RFCs along with actual rain gauge data. So that is what we're looking at for the last 24 hours. Let's take a look and see how we've been doing for the last month. Let me take a minute here to get that in. There we go. So over the last month, we've had over 8 inches in southern Minnesota here. Also about 7 in Wisconsin. We can compare that to percent of normal if we like. Might take a second here, but here in this portion of Wisconsin, it is about 200% of normal. Here we go. And so, yeah, we're a little more than double of the normal precipitation for a good portion of our area here. We can change the opacity of that so you can still see your background a little bit so you know where you're looking at. And that's how did that go to 6 hours? It's not what that was. It's 30 days. So anyway, lots of different ways to look at the precipitation data, and that's the percent of normal for one day. So yeah, it was a lot of precip for one day. So I will go back to our test site that I was showing earlier and move on. I'm going to skip the water model and floodation mapping for just a moment and come back to that. We do have our snow analysis map I was mentioning. If we enable that here, oops, that's the wrong one. Our snow depth map, we don't have much, of course, here, but we still have some out west we can look at. And so we still have some snow in the Rockies, as you can see. It's quite a decent looking map. And then if you want to see how much water is in that, we can click on the snow water equivalent and read it off of the legend. Like I said, it's not a mouse over feature, but hopefully we'll be able to get that in a future build. And then here is where you can choose and select your administrative boundaries. I'm going to go back out. If you click the home button, it goes to a continental US view. But if we want to look at some of the different boundaries, we can do that here. We can add counties to the map and then change the colors of it. We can go dark, and then change your opacity so we can kind of in the background. You can add your weather forecast offices so you know which forecast office you're under. We can add the river forecast center boundary and see everything, see how much area the North Central RFC covers. And again, you can select these and set them up how you like to look at them and then do a bookmark on it, and it will use those boundaries each time you bring it in. So I'm going to briefly discuss National Water Model. If you enable the stream reaches here, again, you get a little splash screen kind of describing a little bit about the water model layer, and also again in red, do not use this for official purposes. But you can take a look at, they progressively display more and more of those stream reaches, and if you hover over a river, you can bring up that stream and bring up what the National Water Model is forecasting to happen to that stream. So right in here, in this case, the Crow River staying fairly, according to the model, staying in fairly moderate shape here, about 1500 CFS. You can also compare it to one of the gauges. So in this case, I've got the Mayer gauge up, and if we take a look at the water model, it says 1700 CFS. Let's see what the actual is. It's about 1400, so it's actually fairly close today. It's closer than I've often seen it. So anyway, this just wanted to show that this is available, and something to start. When we start getting some rain events, you might take a look at it and see what kind of rises it's showing, and then just kind of pay attention and see what it actually did, and see how it's performing. There is also a soil moisture analysis from the model in here, and you can take a look at that as well. Looks a little bit better when we zoom out, but that would show a kind of a percentage of saturation on the soil. So we're getting a lot more moist in Minnesota than we've been for a while. And then there is also this stream analysis anomaly. I wouldn't recommend using that for anything at this point, because we don't really know what that is comparing itself to. So at this point, I think we'll start taking a look at the hydrograph page. So I'm going to select a site. Let's see. Let's take a look at. Let's look at St. Paul. So I'm going to bring up the Mississippi River at St. Paul. So on the first click, you get a quick look at the hydrograph. Again, it's got the slider bar available underneath here, so you can go back. When you put your cursor on there, you do get a readout of exactly what the data is that you're looking at. The observed side on the left of the dashed line, forecast side on the right. Some of the information at the top tells you when the last observation came in. You've got your flood stages are on there. If you want to, you can click the scale to flood stage categories right here, which apparently is grayed out, so we're not going to do that right now. And then below the hydrograph, you can turn on and off the different traces. So if you want to turn the forecast off or on, why is that not doing anything? So theoretically, we should be able to do that. I am going to switch at this point. I'm going to go to the official one and stop looking at that test one, because I think there's some issues with it right now. So let's go back to displaying our forecasts. Turn off the gray ones. Let's go back to St. Paul, and we'll bring this up again. My apologies for that, folks. So these should be, no, there we go. Now we can scale to the flood categories if you want to show all of the different minor, moderate, and major flood categories on the graph. Makes for a pretty flat graph most of the time, or you can go back to scaling it just toward the data that you're displaying. And then right below here, as I mentioned, let's see if we can do this, what I can show it on my screen. We can turn on and off the different traces. Of course, your definitions of your flood stages are there. And if we scroll down a little bit more, you get some metadata and a direct link to the data provider. In this case, it's a USGS gauge, your lat lon, and what area the gauge is in. So to go to the full hydrograph page for any gauge, you then click on this little spot up here in the top middle, and that will open up a separate screen and bring up the full hydrograph page for that site. So again, there's the definition of it right up here. As we scroll a little bit, it's got all the features we were just looking at on the pop-up. Again, it's got the data provider, some information on when the graph was created, when the forecast was issued. Your gauge datum is right in here. And the same information right below there, but as we keep going, you got our notes on when forecasts are available, that sort of thing is right in here. Our listing of flood impacts follows, and those are all right here. So the different impacts at different levels is here. Metadata again there. As we go farther down, we then get the gauge map, which shows exactly where the gauge is locally. And this is where you can take a look at your FEMA layers are in here as well. Might take a few minutes to load here. So yeah, there they are. So your FEMA maps are here. And then we also, for this gauge is the only one in our area that we have the USGS partner FIM flood inundation map. And that's what we can, so we can see what would be inundated at different levels. This was a project, of course, that took quite some time to accomplish. So I will turn that back off, but just wanted to show that again, instead of a separate tab, this is where the folks in St. Paul will go to see this information. To the right of the gauge map, we have the recent and historic crests, as well as a button to show, bring up a table of all of them. As we keep going farther down, we do get a datum table. This is new. With this system, kind of shows what the elevations are from gauge 0 and also at the different flood stages. Then the gauge photos are located here, and you can scroll through those. And continuing down, this next spot here is the probability information. So this is that the 90-day flood outlook, and then across the bottom you can see the different types of outlooks. This is our weekly look at that 90-day outlook. And then one that's become quite popular lately is the short range 10-day probabilistic guidance that it is issued from the RFC and has a 10-day precipitation, 10 days of modeled precipitation included in it, and you can get a look at kind of some of the longer range potential uncertainties depending on what kind of precipitation we might be getting over that time period. And I've got another briefing and a set of slides that I will include when I send out the information that gives a lot more background on the HEFS forecast or HEFS guidance, and then a number of links down here below that. All the same links that we've had over from AHAPS are included down here. So I believe, and then the last, then I wanted to cover real quick, the National Water Model Guidance tab is here. And in this case, this is what our analysis, short and medium range water model, and you can click on the observation once again to see where that goes, and also take a look at the official forecast that we have included as well. Once again, water model, I just kind of take a look at, start evaluating, but don't be making a lot of operational decisions based on that at this time. So we'll go back to our official tab, and I will bring back the map, go back to full CONUS display. And at this point, I think I have covered most of what I wanted to talk about. So I would be happy to entertain any questions at this point. I don't know that I see any written. I also believe that we should be unmuted. So if you would like to ask a question, please feel free.
Craig, is there any opportunity for that website to let us know when our area is going into flood stage?
As far as send some kind of an alert to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that from this site. I think, there is a one that's available to government officials that's called INWS, but I don't think I would be able to get you in there, Lisa, unfortunately.
Okay.
So it's not something we have with this system right now, but I could certainly put a request in that we look toward developing that, and I have heard that from some other people as well. So that's probably already in the queue.
Yeah, that would be handy to have.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any questions? We'll mention this project took a long time in development. There are some things that we had in AHAPS that we do not have on here, including there's the data table. That is not available right now, but we do have an API that anybody who does any kind of programming can grab all of our river data and then pull it directly into your applications. And if you're interested in that, let me know and I can send you the information for that as well. Let's look at the questions one more time. I'm still not seeing any more questions, so yep. You are certainly welcome.
Yeah, Craig, Pat Masai is here with the airport. I noticed you're recording this, which is great. Can that be posted on this website for at least for St. Paul or something, or a link?
The
If we
I don't know that
revisit it.
I don't know that I can post it on here, but I'll find a way. I'll at least get it out to everybody, and then maybe you can use it locally with your group. I don't think there's a way that I can put it on the site, but I'll look into it and see if that's possible.
Yeah, just because we change hands quite a bit, so it's kind of nice to have a training aid like this.
Yeah, I will mention on that on the resources guide, we do have a story map where I do have a bunch of videos where I kind of go over some of these features in a video form.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Certainly. All right, I will pause 5 more seconds, and after that, you're on your own. So, well, thank you very much for attending today. Good luck with anything. And as I said, if you come up with questions as you're going through and taking a look, please let me know, and I'll do what I can to help you. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks.